Good morning. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond The Courtroom, where law and culture meet. So today we're going to be talking about lawyers behaving badly and the duty of a prosecuting attorney.
That wouldn't be you, right?
No. Well,
never.
It depends on, it just depends, I guess. I've behaved badly in my life for sure, but typically not in the courtroom. So, Mike, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. Are you recovered? We had some technical difficulties to start.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. So I know you were working the magic back there, and you were calm and collected in crisis.
I try.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But today you're wearing a T-shirt, actually.
It is, yeah.
It's the first time I've ever seen you not in a button-down shirt with.
And radio hair as well.
You got a haircut as well. This is all. I find that it's radio gold to describe what my producer board man is wearing to begin every show. I've gotten many emails, letters, phone calls, and it's a request. People like it.
Well, yeah. How many have you got, actually?
Less than.
Because I will take issue with that.
Less than one. So
nice. We're
going to talk a little bit about lawyers behaving badly and prosecuting attorneys today. But before we do that, I'm starting to get a little fired up because football season's kicking off soon, Mike. And do you know what fantasy football is?
It's like, yeah, you're like. Basically, you pick the teams and players and...
Right. Basically, you have a draft,
year,
and then your players get points during the week.
And I got issues with that because we're still in baseball season.
I know.
You football fans are just... it's like everywhere I look... I went to a restaurant the other night, and all I saw was football on all the TVs.
Well, soon football will be... it'll be all year... It's all year long now with the draft and with the combine, and now they're doing... they do Hard Knocks, so they do... on HBO training camp videos, so you can see everything. But yeah, I'm very excited. There is some psychological thing there that needs to be explored. We're not going to do that today, but my draft is next week. I'm pretty fired up about that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I get to draft fake players for a fake team that I get to fake manage over a long period of time.
So you pick some good ones?
I don't know. It's next week. I'm doing my draft research. It's when I go into my man cave in my house and I get real quiet.
Your man cave.
That's right.
I like that.
Well, let's start with lawyers behaving badly. So, as my background, as I've said before on the show, is that I'm a criminal defense attorney. And so I always found it interesting that about once every 3 or 4 years, there's always a criminal defense attorney that gets arrested for taking contraband into the jail, right?
Yeah.
So I don't understand. It's always some sort of like illegal drug or something like that. They're not trying to take it. It's not like Hogan's Heroes where they're taking a nail file in there and trying to do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, and I thought about this as like, why is this? And I think the reason that happens like once every 4 or 5 years is. Did you know that lawyers are the worst self-medicators in terms of substance abuse, other than, I think, dentists?
Really?
Yeah. And doctors don't count because doctors can prescribe themselves whatever they need, so that doesn't matter. But
which is wrong right there.
I think they're close. Doctors are close, too. But I think that, being an attorney is such a stressful job that if you don't learn some coping skills, basically, this can be problematic. And so I think some defense attorneys, they get caught up in these situations where they start to do those things, and then they think it's okay to start, try to get themselves out of jam or whatever. There was an attorney that was arrested in Ohio that was like actually a drug dealer, and I was like, So, nice. But yeah, so attorneys, just because people think that there's this air of professionalism about attorneys and doctors and dentists and I don't know, librarians, also professionals, right?
Librarians.
But the issue is that they're people too, and there's thousands and thousands of them. I think there's 200 or almost 300,000 barred lawyers in California. Now that's from the beginning, so some obviously the really low numbers, they're not practicing anymore.
Right.
But so, anytime that you have funny to me, I don't think anyone else actually gets it, but, when you have 300 million people, you're always going to have somebody that's going to put a rocket booster on their car, right?
Yeah.
So the issue is the same with lawyers. When you have that many lawyers, some of them are going to behave badly. So, and then we're going to kind of dovetail this in nicely today with regards to the duty of a prosecutor, because lots of people think that the whole duty of the prosecutor is to win, right?
Right.
But that's actually not true. So let's start with some lawyers behaving badly. So there's three guys that are in I believe in Florida, and basically what they did is they were doing a defamation trial, right? And as part of this defamation trial is a big, huge, lots of money that are involved, and these three lawyers basically set up the opposing counsel for a DUI. So what they did is they set up a situation where he was out and about. They got him plied with drinks. Then they were hoping he would get in his car, and then they called the cops on him. The sad thing is that they actually had to do this twice, right? So it didn't work the first time, but so the second time, because I guess their theory was that if the lead lawyer of the opposing team got a DUI, this would throw them into a whole big problem, and basically they would be sure to win the case, right? And they first of all, they got caught. The lawyer that did drive improperly did not get charged with DUI, from what it looks like, because of this he was kind of set up, right?
You think?
Yeah, right. And the thing is that what this shows is it shows the whole idea of winning at all costs. Right?
Yeah.
Because look, we live in a culture of winning. That's where it's all about, everything is competing in the American dream, and you do whatever you can to win. We're gritty and all of that, right? But there are situations where winning at all costs isn't necessarily the way that you want to move forward.
Right.
And in this scenario here, all three of these lawyers are recommended that they get disbarred. So think about that. You went to law school, you went to college, you worked your whole life to build a practice or be part of a practice, and then you basically, because you want to win this one case that you probably won't remember 10 years later, you lose your license and you get totally disbarred because you want to win at all costs. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit about winning and the role of the prosecuting attorney in winning. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom, where law and culture meet.
Ta-da!
So, Mike, you had a question over the break.
Yeah, what would stop a police officer from parking outside of a restaurant and catching patrons as they exit? Obviously, patrons people go to dinner, they have a couple drinks, and maybe get behind the wheel. To me, that would be
dirty pool.
Yeah,
right, unfair.
But again,
nothing stops them from doing that,
right.
And they do it. So here's the thing, though, is that you think to yourself, okay, so why don't we see cops everywhere, right? Well, there's actually not a large number of police out there compared to the population. I mean, there's 7 million people or whatever it is in the LA County. And it's a huge. It's the LA County is the biggest county in the world, in the United States.
In the world.
We
are the world.
Yes, that's right.
We are the world.
We are the children. That's right. A little old school right there.
I know, right?
I know. Okay, so they do, but it's just you don't see them where you go necessarily, because they're just not enough of them. You know what I'm saying? So, and a lot of what police will do as well is they may not sit right outside of one specific place, but if there's a whole cluster of restaurants and bars and things like that, they'll make sure that they're in areas to where there's ingress and egress out of there with the there they are. No. I don't think I've done anything. I have not misbehaved,
No.
So I think I'm okay. Another audio drop in. You're just on fire today. So to answer your question, nothing. But look, there's any night in the given road, there's not enough police to be able to probably catch all of the people that are drinking and driving. So that's why my dad used to say that nothing good happens after 10:30, and that's probably right.
So it's really not. It's not entrapment. You would think some people would say that's entrapment, but it's not.
There's a big common misperception about entrapment, and entrapment actually is suborning someone's will into doing something they wouldn't normally do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's putting someone in a situation and basically creating a circumstances and a sequence of events that makes someone do something they normally wouldn't do. That's sort of a paraphrasing of the entrapment, but it's not. Entrapment is not going to where the crime is, because that's what the police are supposed to do. It's if there's an area of town that there are a lot of accidents from drunk driving and there's a lot of problems over there, the police are supposed to go over there and try to clean that up, because that's dangerous, and that's they're to protect and serve the public, and that's not entrapment. So to answer your question, there's nothing that prevents them from doing that. So
outstanding.
And the thing is now we've talked about Uber and Lyft on here, is that it's I have read some statistics that accidents are actually going down from drunk driving because of those things. So that's actually a very positive thing.
That is a good thing.
Well, and also, and we're getting a little off of what the topic of today's show is. I'm going to bring us back around. But it's actually really good, because all of the Mothers Against Drunk Driving and all of that stuff that was coming out in the 80s and the 90s, that education also decreased decreased DUI drivers in terms of accidents, and so that stuff is trending down from the statistics that I've seen, and I hope that continues. So let's talk a little bit about a duty of a prosecuting attorney. So I'm a former prosecutor, and basically there's this, just like some people have a misperception of entrapment, some people have a misperception of what a prosecutor's duty is. They think the prosecutor's duty is to put people in jail and to win jury trials, right?
Right.
To put them in jail. And that's true in terms of that is a function that they serve, but their actual number one priority is to do justice. And the reason why that's important is because if your number one priority is to win, and then you get all sorts of hanky outcomes. So there's every once in a while you'll hear of a prosecutor that destroys evidence, or a prosecutor that does something improper, or a prosecutor that, there's all these issues in Orange. It's not the prosecutor's office, but there's kind of the prosecutor's office, but the sheriff's office in Orange County, they're embroiled in all of these things because the role of the sheriff, the role of the prosecutor turned into, in my opinion, they wanted to win everything. They wanted to win at all costs. And the role of a prosecutor actually is to do justice. And so how does that play out in day-to-day things? Well, number one is, you ever see My Cousin Vinny?
Yes.
Okay. So, excuse me. In My Cousin Vinny, Joe Pesci's character enters into the case, and the prosecuting attorney is talking about his files and all of that, and Joe Pesci goes, Vinny goes, I would love to take a look at those files, right? Yeah. Well, and then the prosecuting attorney says, oh, well, you can look at them all you want, and Vinny doesn't understand. Well, that's because the prosecutor is supposed to turn over all exculpatory evidence. Right. What that means is that the defense is supposed to get to see everything. So people are sometimes surprised by that. They're like, really? They're like, yes, the prosecutor actually reveals its entire case to the defense attorney in terms of the police. They get the police reports. Nothing is supposed to be sprung on the defense attorneys at the time of trial. So when prosecutors start to play around with that, that's when you start to get some bad outcomes, because they're like, look, tactically, it would be an advantage for the prosecutors to just sort of wait until the day of trial and then give them everything, so the defense attorneys would be overwhelmed with all of the stuff and wouldn't be able to proceed. But what happens is that they're not supposed to do that. There's this whole scheme in place to be able to get that information.
Right.
But sometimes prosecutors, I've seen them, I've experienced it myself as a defense attorney, they get a little fast and loose with some of the discovery rules. And sometimes it's because they're overworked. But I've had a case or two in my 17-year career where I felt that a prosecutor was trying to use some gray area to their advantage in terms of to win, right? And that's actually, in my opinion, goes against what the duty of the ethical prosecutor is, which is to do justice.
Right.
You're actually supposed to dismiss a case if you don't think that the person, if you have some doubts about if the person actually did it or not. Mm-hmm. Now, there's an opposing school of thought that says, well, the jury is the fact finder. Your role is just to put on the case and do justice, and since that you're not supposed to worry about winning or losing, then actually you just put it on and have the jury decide.
Can the prosecution apply pressure on the judge to not dismiss the case?
Well, actually, the only person and this is another misperception, the only person in the courtroom that can dismiss a case because there's no problem, right? And we'll talk about that in a second, is the prosecutor. The only way that a judge can dismiss a case is if there is a legal defect in the case, to where, let's say that someone's right was violated, and the defense attorneys, we file a motion to dismiss, and the judge grants it, then yes, the judge can dismiss a case. But just to simply dismiss a case with no problems, only a prosecutor can do that.
Gotcha.
So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about more of some of the duties of the ethical prosecutor. I'm attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Welcome back. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Now, at the break, Mike actually showed me an industrial shredder that was created by a man where they could shred a refrigerator. They put a refrigerator in there, they put a couch in there, and they put one of those giant wheels that they have on a Caterpillar tractor in there, and that thing took care of it.
Those are called tires.
It's a
the
wheel.
The tire goes on the wheel.
All right,
yeah.
all right. Well, I'm not a car guy, so that's why this is not car time.
Some guy in Italy invented this.
Well, it's actually the reason why I'm even referring to it is because, one, always referring to video on radio is radio gold. And number two, though, is because actually lawyers behaving badly and the prosecuting attorney ethical duties, destroying evidence or shredding documents actually does occur. So on the criminal side, prosecutors are required on a case called Brady v. Maryland by the Supreme Court, which basically says that they have to disclose exculpatory evidence, right? But also that there's a duty there to protect conserve and protect, to basically to make sure that the paperwork doesn't get destroyed, right, or any evidence doesn't get destroyed once that the prosecution has access to. Okay, so sometimes though prosecutors, when they destroy evidence, they get out a paper shredder and they put it in there. Now this is rare. I'm not trying to jump on all over prosecutors. I find most of them to be ethical people. I find most of them to just do their job. And as a former prosecutor, I know that the vast majority of them are good, hardworking people trying to do their best they can.
Yeah.
However, there are some bad apples in the bunch, right? It's not just on the prosecutor side as well, though, or on the criminal side as well. On the civil side as well, this I believe this happens a little more often on the civil side.
I was going to say, I don't know if you ever watched Better Call Saul.
I have, yeah.
Okay, there's an episode where I guess there are some residents in a senior community, and apparently Saul's reason to believe that they're taking advantage of the residents. And get into their bank accounts and manipulating their funds and all this. The long and the short of it is that he goes there to confront them, and apparently in the background you can hear them shredding documents behind closed doors.
Well, and you think of Better Call Saul kind of talks about a solo practitioner who's kind of a fly by night kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
But there was this case recently in Denver, Colorado, where a really national big firm, right, huge firm. Okay, we're talking like tip of the pyramid type of firm. There was this complaint that was filed between these two brawling pet companies. Okay,
jeez.
For pet, can't make this up. For
No,
pet,
yeah.
I think it's pet food or something. And anyways, and so there was the head partner, or one of the partners at the Denver office of this firm, ordered one of the associates to delete and destroy all of these emails, right, after a complaint had been filed. You cannot do that. Okay, because it's destroying evidence, right, and it's bad. So even at the sort of the tip of the pyramid, you can have these actors get a little out of hand because the stakes are so high in all in these. That's why all the legal dramas are on TV, is because there's so much conflict and emotion, and the stakes are so high, and so people can. It's really easy for people to lose their way, especially when if you're doing a jury trial, or you're working on a case, that consumes you. I mean, it becomes your whole life, because it's not an easy thing to put a trial on. And on the criminal side, if you're a defense attorney, you're representing a defendant who may be facing very serious jail time. This may be their whole life, and they're saying, no, I'm innocent, this didn't happen, and so that's extremely stressful. On the other side, as a prosecutor, you don't represent the victims necessarily, but you have the victims' interests in mind. And so if you're representing a case where there's this horrible crime and these victims, you're talking to them every day, you're going to become emotionally invested in them.
Sure.
And that's why, though, where the professionalism comes into place, and they say, okay, we have to make sure that we don't lose our way, and the best way to do that is just make sure we know what the ethical rules are. There's another big misconception about defense attorneys, is that, and we've talked about this before in the show a little bit, but the ethical duty that we have not to put someone on the stand that we know is going to lie. Right. So if someone comes into your office and they say, "Hey, I just robbed a bank," right, and then they tell you that when they take the stand in the trial, they're going to say that was their twin brother and it's some cockamamie story or whatever. There's actually an ethical duty to not put them on the stand, because you are an officer of the court, and so as a professional, you have to learn how to navigate those situations, that you satisfy being a good advocate for your client, but also at the same time too is that you don't, number one, you're an officer of the court, that you follow the ethical rules. That's on sort of the altruistic side, like I'm a good person, I want to follow the rules, but also too, sometimes we want to make sure that there are some other reasons involved too, is you don't want to get disbarred. You know what I mean? So I've been working for 17 years, so there's very few other things I know how to do, and most of them I can't really get paid for. So you have to protect your license, and that's why it's very important to get not so caught up in these we must win at all costs, because that almost never serves you.
Exactly.
And you can be aggressive and you can do everything you can to win, but you need to do it within the rules to protect not just your client, but your own license.
Yes.
And the people as well, if you're a prosecutor.
That's it.
So, all right. Well, that's a pretty exciting show today, Mike.
I think so, yeah.
I expect a button-down shirt from you next week.
I'm going to go buy a shredder.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
All right, well, have a great week, everyone. You've been listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom, where law and culture meet.